You're listening to episode 168 of The Secular Buddhist. Welcome to The Secular Buddhist. I'm Ted Meissner. The Secular Buddhist is the official podcast of the Secular Buddhist Association, a grassroots-driven effort to answer the needs of secular teaching and practice for contemporary society. The podcast has interviews and roundtable discussions pertaining to engaged Buddhist training and practice, and the SBA website has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Though the podcast focuses on core practice from a secular viewpoint, more traditional teachings are welcome and openly discussed. Jennifer Niedzielski joins us to talk about her work and joys with Mindful Moms Network. Hi everyone, and happy Mother's Day. We're going to talk about mindfulness and how it relates to motherhood, one of the most challenging, stressful, meaningful, and rewarding efforts anyone can do. For all the mothers out there who take the time to take care of your mind's state so you can take care of us, thank you. Your caring ripples throughout the generations of humanity. We appreciate you, we need you, and we love you. Jennifer Niedzielski is a mother of 3 girls, full-time, pursuing her passion for teaching on the evenings and weekends. She has been an educator for 15 years and is currently a part-time college instructor and yoga instructor in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jen has her BA from the University of Michigan and her MA from Western Michigan in education and is a 200-hour registered yoga teacher. Mindfulness, yoga, and meditation have been passions of hers for over a decade. What started as a blog quickly gained momentum, and with the partnership of her college friend Ronell, Mindful Moms Network was born in August of 2011. So, sit back, relax, and have a nice, warm milk. Not too hot. You can test it on your wrist. And our guest today is Jen Niedzielski. Jen, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Very glad to talk with you. And for folks who are listening to the podcast, Jen and I ran into each other at an information session about an upcoming MBSR class locally. And this is one of the few interviews I get to do with someone who's nearby, which is kind of nice. And Jen is the founder of Mindful Moms Network. And we're going to talk about that in the interview. But Jen, let's start with you telling us about your background.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential to hear my background just because it really prefaces the creation of Mindful Moms Network. So I'm a teacher, a professional teacher, and I taught for 10 years in a middle school classroom, and decided to, after some time in the middle school classroom, decided that I wanted to work with teachers doing professional development in literacy. So I was an English teacher, and I've always had this interest in working with adult learners, especially teachers who are into motivating their students, because I went into the teaching profession because I'm one of those people who is a born and bred teacher. You know, I was that girl who in her basement at 4 years old was teetering around in her mom's high heels and carrying a teacher book, you know, and teaching my stuffed animals. You know how that goes. I mean, I've always known that this was my calling. It's just, there was never a question in my mind. And so I loved working with adolescents, and I love that stage simply because it's such a transitionary stage. And you need those kids need guidance, and they need someone to be aware and to listen. And so much, I felt so effective as an educator, not necessarily in teaching grammar and literature, but as just being there for those students during that time in their period of their lives. And that inspired me then to, again, like I said, work with teachers, because I thought, okay, I love teaching so much. How great would it be to be a teacher educator? That's like taking it to the next level. And so um, prior to going back to, I had my master's degree in education, and I was considering doing my PhD in teacher education to become a professor of teachers. I had always, ever since undergrad, envisioned myself. I'm big on visions, but I had always this vision of me working at a university and teaching future teachers. And so, um, about, like I said, 10 years after into my teaching, I decided, okay, um, I'd like to go back and do my graduate work, but I'm also getting older, so it's time to maybe start a family, right? I mean,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is, as a woman, those are issues that you grapple with, especially when you're starting to ramp up your career. And so my husband and I were married for 6 years before we had kids, and I was that type of woman who, I have friends of mine who have always wanted to be moms and who knew for sure, like they just always knew they'd be a mom. They knew they'd be a stay-at-home mom, and then I had friends who knew they would never be a mother. They're just like, nope, not my thing, not going there. And I never saw myself not having kids, but I really never saw myself having children either. And so my husband and I talked about it, and the timing was right. We were, comfortable and had a home, and we had good jobs, and we're like, let's do this. And so, it took a little bit longer to get pregnant, and so we just grappled with, well, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And I was like, no problem, not working. I'm going to go back and pursue my doctorate. It's a sign from the universe that I'm supposed to do this. Well, you know how that goes when you give up controlling, because you don't know because you're just getting to know me. But when I decided I wanted to have a baby, I got all the books, I charted my temperature. I'm that
The whole
intellectual
nine yards.
girl who's like, okay, we're doing this, right? And sure enough, just like in mindfulness, sometimes when you attach to something, I've heard so many stories of women who want to have a baby so bad, and then when they give up, not give up in a bad way, but when they accept and kind of let go and just let nature take its course, they get pregnant, type of thing. Same thing happened for me. The moment I kind of switched gears and was like, okay, graduate work is my focus. Um, I got my acceptance letter I went to Michigan State University. I got my acceptance letter into my PhD program a week after I took a pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant. So all of a sudden now I am thinking, okay, I'm pregnant. Now I'm starting a PhD program. No problem. I can do this. And so I started my graduate work. And 9 months later, I found out I was pregnant again. Yeah, like, no, you actually do get what you ask for. So I found out my oldest was 9 months old when I found out I was pregnant yet again. And then I found out it was twins. So here I am, first year of a
Really
PhD
listening
program.
closely to you at this point.
I know. First year of a PhD program, doing something I absolutely love and have dreamed of, and did my, GRE and worked, so hard to get there. And I have this 9-month-old at home, and now I'm pregnant with two more babies. Like, again, I can do this. And as it turns out, yeah, you can do anything you set your mind to, but there's always trade-offs. And so I did 2 years of the PhD program trying to juggle staying at home full time during the day and doing my coursework at night and on weekends. And that only lasted so long. So I was burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. But it was tough to give up simply because, you as women, as mothers, you do make significant choices about your career when you have children, and it just seemed like the right thing to do at that moment in time to step back. I had these three essentially babies at home, and just step back from a PhD work, because I figured I will never get back the years of my children's lives, but I can always go back and do my graduate work. So plus, at that time, my husband was also pursuing, we're from Michigan. My husband was pursuing a career change out here in Minnesota, which is where we live now. And he did get a job. So all of a sudden, I took this time off. I've got these three babies, and my husband wants a career change and contemplating moving to a brand new state. And my head was spinning. So for 2 years, I was home full time with these girls, not having any outlet. For a couple years, I was trying to do both. But um, I left my graduate studies in like May, and by June of that, 1 month later, I was a different person. What I mean is, I felt aimless. I loved being home with my girls. That was a deliberate choice, but I was unprepared for how difficult for me that shift into full-time motherhood was going to be. Although I was with them full time before, I could still, when my husband would get home in the afternoon after he worked and I taught a 7 p.m. class, I could still get dressed up that day and I knew I had an outlet. And when I didn't have that anymore, I struggled tremendously. I felt like I lost myself. I lost a sense of my identity. And it really hit me quick and fast how significantly, I wouldn't say depressed, but just kind of upset, and how dreary things were, and how agitated I was with the girls, and how quick I was to anger. And I was just noticing these traits in myself being home full time. And I mean, let's face it, Ted, being home full time with twins who are 1 year old and a 2-year-old who's potty training, and that would drive anybody crazy. So
At the very
I think
least,
it
yep.
was part of it. So it was a mix. And there was one day in particular, just kind of segueing into where mindfulness or mindful moms came to be. Um, there was one day I woke up, and again, it was a rough morning because the girls are up early and I'm trying to nurse twins, and, my daughter is up and she needs what, my older daughter needs her thing. And I just kind of had it. And I went in my bedroom and I gave myself a timeout. We give our kids timeouts, but I did. I took a timeout. So I went into my bedroom and I just stared out the window and I was just in tears, and I was just like, I was so sad simply because I knew how I was showing up to my children. I wasn't happy. I wasn't giving them who I believed they deserved. They didn't deserve that kind of mom who was so quick tempered and just kind of grouchy and just kind of, and that also just wasn't my personality. And I'm not kidding, Ted, as I'm looking out the window, all of a sudden I was like, you need to write this book about mindfulness and mothering. It was that quick. It was kind of like a flash. It was just something that was like in my head. I don't know where it came from. The mindfulness thing, just to back up a bit, I've been reading mindfulness books. That's kind of always been a passion of mine for, over a decade. So it wasn't as if this mindfulness idea came out of nowhere and I've never read or practiced mindfulness. I had always, my preferred choice of books to read has always been like Jon Kabat-Zinn or Marianne Williamson, just anything to do with mindfulness. And so when I got that idea, I hurried out to my desk that was in like our living room area, and I sat down, put a show on for the girls, and I sat down and I wrote out like 9 chapters to this book. I didn't write out the chapters. I wrote out like the chapter outline, like this could be chapter 1, this could be chapter 2, this is chapter 3. And I could not believe how fast and furious those ideas just kind of flowed out onto the paper. And it was that quick. And then I don't know what happened. It was, all of these just coincidences line up. I was like, I should write a book. But then I had this book called How to Write a Book Proposal that I was reading because there was another children's book I had in mind for writing. And in this book called How to Write a Book Proposal, the author suggested always starting a blog first about your book, because that allows you to see if the ideas will take, if anybody's really interested before you invest all this time. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I've never done a blog. I don't know how to do a blog technology wise. I've never read blogs. But I'm like, I can do this. And then just the next day, I just got online and I'm like, how to do a blog? Okay, go to Blogger. Okay, start writing. And it was just that seamless. It just kind of all flowed. And so I started this blog, and I did like my first entry, like, here's what I know I want to write about. And I just put it out there. My blogs were really long. Now, when I look back, I still am a long writer. You'll tell when you get to the website. But, I went on and people were responding, and I got more and more hits. And there were times, when I would post and there were 150 hits within, the day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is really cool. Maybe I'm not the only one who is thinking these things. And my very close friend, Renelle, who helped me co-create it, So about a month into my writing and posting on this blog, Renelle and I, who are good friends from undergraduate school, she also has 3 kids who stays home. She called me and said, "Oh my gosh, I love what you're doing. This is so great." She goes, "I've always had this vision. I would start a business or something with a friend of mine." She's like, "We should start this this concept, this thing for moms about, mindfulness and manifestation." And she and I were just talking, and she's like, "We could call it Mindful Moms Network, and it could be," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's a great idea." And so, it started out with me writing this blog and generating this idea for a book, and then she got on board, and I'm like, "Let's do this," because, two minds are always better than one. And I maintained the blog for a year on Blogger. And at that point in time, it wasn't called Mindful Moms Network. My blog was called Intentionally Inspiring Mamas. And so it was mainly about me teaching moms techniques of mindfulness and manifestation and about the law of attraction. And about a year after writing the blog, and I would try to do it as much as possible, with 3 small kids at home. It's a passion project. It's that thing that you get up at 5 a.m. before your kids are up to do. And it's the thing you do until the wee hours of the night because you just feel compelled to do it. Plus, Ted, it was amazing how good it made me feel. So it brought back that aspect of my personality, which was being a writer, being a teacher. I then realized how ironic it was. Like, here I was being a teacher of teachers because mothers are the ultimate teachers, and I was pursuing my graduate degree in teacher education, and this is teaching teachers. And it felt so good, and the writing came and the writing felt good. And I'm a writer, I'm an English teacher. So, that was not intimidating for me, which was helpful. And then about a year after my posting on the blog site, that's when Renelle and I, around Mother's Day, unveiled mindfulmomsnetwork.com. My friend Renelle did all of the website design, and she was the one who really got the website up and running. She and we talked extensively as we came into this together that I was kind of more our partnership was like a tree. She was the roots. Like, she's got the foundation of, okay, like, what needs to be done? Here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to do on the business end, marketing end. She's good with that. Whereas I'm like the leaves way up in the sunshine, just going, ooh, we could talk about this. We could talk about, like, I could write about this, like, there's no lack of inspiration for writing for me. And so I'm that type of person, and together it works great. And so that was Mindful Moms Network. And so this coming Mother's Day, the website will have been up for a year. So we're still very new, and we're testing out different ideas. So the blog, then we rolled all my blog entries onto the website. And then I decided to do a tips and techniques page because I noticed moms really responded to my blogs that had like mindful mama tips at the end of the blog, saying like, if the blog, let's say, is about self-compassion, then I would give actual tips to practice self-compassion in their days. So then I created this section on our website called Tips and Techniques, and I've even done a couple of vlogs, and I know moms like that, like 2-minute vlogs, like, here's how to release guilt. Here, try this 2-minute strategy. It's called, recognize and respond with love and compassion. And those are 2 really good tips that whenever you notice guilt creeping in, do these 2 things, and it will help kind of pique your awareness about it. And so I enjoy doing that. I'm a teacher. I really enjoy being in front of people and interacting. And so we've gotten a really good, positive response to that, those quick things. And we're on Facebook as well. We've got a great Facebook following, and my friend Renelle mainly does all of the Facebook posts, which tend to be inspirational quotes, inspirational pictures, just those quick things, if moms are going through their day or standing with their smartphone waiting for picking up their kids from school, they could click on our Facebook page and just get something really inspiring and uplifting for that day. Like, I think our latest one was about transcending your limitations and just allowing this journey of motherhood to bring you back to who you are. And that all of these difficult lessons in mothering are meant to teach us something so vitally important that bring us back to our true selves, our true essence. And, all of the content that I generate for Mindful Moms Network is all based on my experience. It's essentially, what am I struggling with and dealing with? And I don't claim to be a mindfulness expert. I've read enough about mindfulness, and I'm a researcher, getting my degree. One of my strengths, I think, as a person is taking a lot of books and distilling that information. I mean, this is what teachers do, right? They take a lot of information, they know their audience, and then they distill that information and convey it to their audience in a way they know the audience will get. So that was my whole purpose of Mindful Moms, was to take all of this mindfulness information and then tailor it specifically to moms. A, knowing that they don't have time to read all of the mindfulness books I've read. And B, just making it really realistic and applicable, and helping just everyday moms notice and see the power of mindfulness in their lives. Because once I started practicing these strategies, Ted, like, they were working so well, and things inside of me were shifting, that I was like, this works. This works. This works. I got to keep going with this. And that shift didn't happen right away. I can't say that, yeah, I practiced one technique and I felt like a better mom. But
It takes time.
slow but sure, sometimes I would take a month, for example, for the month of whatever, I practiced acceptance. And whenever my girls were melting down, I would breathe into that moment, and I would observe my quick desire to respond to their anger and get angry myself. And I would mothering gives us countless upon countless opportunities every single day to practice mindfulness. And the more that we just practice that, like anything, we get good at it. And so now when my girls throw a tantrum, sometimes I'm not mindful if my day's been long and I haven't taken care of myself, which again is something we talk about on Mindful Moms Network, which is celebrating ourselves and nurturing ourselves, because we do believe that a pure mind leads to a full heart. And so, you have to take care of yourself to feel good. And so, yeah, if I've had a long day and I blow up at my girls, or just don't quite handle a situation well, because remember, I have twins. So there's always double crying and double whining. And, and I just, what I've noticed with mindfulness, Ted, is that it doesn't stop the bad things from happening. It doesn't stop the stressors. It's just changed my reaction, in essence, my response to those stressors, and allowed me to respond more often than I react. Do I still react? Absolutely. But now I know, so if I do react negatively to my girls, or I don't quite handle a situation well, I'm very quick, now that I'm mindful and have practiced, I can dial back and go, okay, Jen, what is that all about? Like, what do you need now? And it's to the point where all of these tips and techniques and everything that I've shared online, the other day, my husband got home from work, and I'm home full time with the girls, because now we're in Minneapolis, and I haven't, I'm not doing any teaching quite yet. And he's just like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling agitated. I'm going to go take 15 minutes. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm just going to read something. I'll be down in 15. And I came down. It's knowing what you need before it gets beyond that critical mass point. And so I'm getting so much better about being in my body and sensing that agitation before I take it out and direct it on the people I love most. And then, because, when that happens, then you just feel guilty about it. And then there's a whole other host of problems that come with that. So, it's just, I just share what I do and what works and what doesn't work. And moms, it's just amazing how similar our mothering stories are, even though you can have a mom, who has a teenager, as opposed to a mom who has a 2-year-old. Anger is still the same. Guilt still feels the same. Stress is the same no matter what we're stressing about. That basic feeling of wanting something to be different than what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. That feeling of stress is the same. So I've just found such tremendous power in talking about these universal themes with mothers, and helping identify, A, you're not alone, B, you're not crazy, and C, here's what we can do about it. And here's the shift you'll feel with your kids. And, and we mentioned this on the Mindful Moms Network page about, you can check out our About page that kind of tells about what we do, but it is all about the kids. We talk a lot about self-care and mothers working on themselves, because truly, We know this intellectually, except we don't practice it all that well, that if our cup is empty, we have nothing to give. Like as moms, we get that, but yet sometimes in our heart, we don't embrace it because our cups get really empty a lot of the time and we still keep trying to go, I've been there and done that. And it's not a selfish thing. I went into my bedroom that day and looked out the window and was in tears, primarily because I didn't like how I was mothering my children. And I love them so much that they deserve the best and I deserve the best too. And so it was because of my profound love for my daughters that gave me the impetus to better myself. And I just, thought this is very powerful. Other moms love their kids this much too. They want to be good moms. They want to be calm. They want to be centered. They don't want to be stressed. They want to come home from work if they're working moms and spend quality time with their children and not worry that they haven't spent enough time with them. Moms who stay at home want to know that it's okay for you to want to get out of the house and you're not a bad mom for feeling like you need a little space, and so it's because of the love for our children that we better ourselves to be better present for them. Because, what it comes down to is when our hearts are peaceful, when our minds are peaceful, our hearts are open, and really the most essential, and this is my opinion, of course, but the most essential quality children need is a parent's attention and just to be witnessed. And so when our heads are not filled with stress and worry, anxiety and fear, when my girls are having a tantrum right now, it's amazing. I have this peace of mind. I just get down, I kneel down at their level, and I just look at them and I see them and I just let them talk. I just let them, and you know what, Ted, and the minute you do that, when you just allow them to be in that space and feel heard, the tantrum ends. But any time that I engage them in that tantrum, like they throw a tantrum and then I'm like angry because they're, I pick up on that energy, then everything just spirals out of control, right? So I've just noticed an incredible difference in my daughters and how they, our kids are mirrors, and how since I've started Mindful Moms and I practice these techniques daily, that they've reflected back to me how calm I am. And my husband even comes home from work, and the other day he said, something's different. He's like, there's just something's different, and in a good different,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know. And it's picking up, and it's just continual practice. And that's where I'm at with Mindful Moms right now is just, we're rolling into February. Each month we do a different theme. I'm a teacher, so I'm a curriculum girl. I like units. I like themes. And so I started doing themes just a couple months ago. And this past theme in January, we were focusing on what mothering with purpose and passion means. And then in February, we're going to roll into Fearless Love, which is all about taking the ego out of our mothering and just really watching our fears, because whenever we're fearful, we cling and we pull close and we grip. And sometimes that's just really not the best thing for our children. They need the space and the freedom to grow and feel loved. And it's hard to do with a fearful mind. And so that's where we're going in February. And ironically, of course, that's something that I'm struggling with right now is fear. And so that's where my inspiration for each monthly theme comes from. Like, okay, what feels good? What are my issues right now? So if you want to know what my issues are, Ted, just keep following my network and you'll know each month, oh, Jen's struggling with letting go. Okay. So.
You brought up a very good point about how this is being reflected in your home life, and sometimes mindfulness gets a bad rap as far as it being so very selfish. You're focused on yourself, and you're like, well, no, actually, it's only by working on ourselves that we're better able to contribute and positively impact those around us. And that's what you're seeing in your home life, is that this is something that can contribute to a much wider change. It's not just about us. It's about those we love. And in this case, as you've said, it's all about the kids and the greater societal impacts that occur over time.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I think mindfulness and mothering is such a profound idea, simply because if we raise our children like I said, if we're calm mothers and we're present mothers, our children grow up. I mean, if we model that, not talk about it, I'm not saying teach our kids mindfulness explicitly, like here's mindfulness, here's what you do. No, you live it. I mean, I think that there is a place as my girls get older, I surely hope to talk about some explicit strategies, but I want to live it first and then allow them, because if I live it as mothers and as fathers, this cuts across parents. Like if we live these principles, our children grow up knowing these principles to be like just fundamental. It becomes part of who they are. And then they go out, and then they impact the community. Honey, just a second.
Guess what? We're gonna eat it in the living room.
See, this is the story of my life. It's hard to have a thought that lasts longer than 30 seconds. So this is a note to everybody listening. Mindful Moms Network, between Renelle and I, it's done in the spare moments of our days. We're both full-time stay-at-home moms, no help. I work on it a half hour here, 20 seconds there, because as you see, we just get interrupted all the time. But I was just saying that it does change our kids. And then our kids then grow up to become mindful parents themselves and mindful coworkers and great friends. And that impact is it's that ripple effect, like throwing a pebble in the water. And I think just being a parent, being a mindful parent is just, again, it's so profound. I mean, children, they pick up on all of that. They're so energetically connected to us that they pick up on that, and they become that, and they watch what we do, and it's so far-reaching. It's very cool. I can't wait to see as my girls grow how it all plays out, because this is still new for me. I've only been doing this for a year and a half, and my girls are still so young, and but again, I'm already seeing it reflected in their behaviors. They're happier, they're calmer because mom's calmer, I mean, if something breaks or milk spills, I used to react, I'm like, oh my God, I just cleaned that floor. Seriously, what's up? What's wrong with you? I can't, I mean, you react. But now, the milk spills and I'm like, it's okay. They're like, oh my gosh, Mommy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. And it's really okay. I'm not underneath it all seething, you know what I mean? Like, it's really okay. Like, and I see their bodies relax when Mommy's like, it's okay, honey. It's not a big deal. It's just spilled milk. Like their bodies, they're not tense anymore. And and I want them to go about their lives that way with allowing things to be and not being tense. And the other thing, Ted, that I think is so essential to this mindfulness thing is it brings you back to yourself. I mean, it's all about living authentically. And that's one of our central tenets of mindful mothering is living life on purpose. And mindfulness allows you to see who you are because you become such a keen observer of yourself, like a master of who you are, so to speak. And when you become, mindful, you accept all of these things about yourself that you didn't before, that you weren't aware of, that you were not accepting. And you have inner wisdom. So you rely more on what you feel is right because you feel connected to your intuition. And that's incredibly helpful and powerful. You don't second guess and doubt yourself. And I mean, I want to live this model for my girls of just being who they are, by me being who I am. And I'm a creative person. I love creativity. And I just created this thing. Like, I want to be this model of be yourself and be calm and be present and be non-judgmental and do what you're meant to do in your life and make it happen, because you can create something out of nothing. Although sometimes I don't think this came out of nothing, Ted. I truly think that idea was like the universe. The universe was like waiting for like this perfect opportunity to drop that seed in my brain for me to run it with it, I think. I'm doing it again, primarily because it makes me feel good and it makes me a better mother and it's a creative outlet for me. But I'm doing it because I want my girls just to see and witness in their mother these qualities of just being yourself and just following your passion and following your purpose. And essentially our purpose is just to be who we are, who we were meant to be.
So in your conversations with the women who have connected to you through the Mindful Moms Network, what are some of the common themes that are arising for them? What are some of the challenges that you're noticing people facing fairly consistently?
So fairly consistently among the mothers that we speak with or comment or send us emails is fear is a big one. So, the moment you have a child, the moment that baby is born, there's this all-consuming fear of just, oh my God, like you're so in love and it's this profound love you've never felt that you just have this instant fear. And I remember after my girls were born, just these awful images would run through my head, and I'm like, where is that from? Like of them being hurt, or if the house were on fire, like how would I get all three of them out at the same, you don't even, so fear is a big one. A lot of moms, we're fearful for our kids because we love them so much, and we just can't even imagine our lives without them. So, we're fearful of things like that, as well as fearful of when we send them to school and they're by themselves. Are they, we don't want them to be picked on, and we want them to feel good. And so fear is a big one. Guilt is another big one. And guilt is essentially, punishing yourself in the present for an event in the past that you can no longer undo. And so mindfulness is amazing for guilt, because mindfulness is present moment awareness, and guilt is something from the past. It's a past event that you can no longer, that you're, again, punishing yourself for in the present moment, but no amount of punishment will undo that thing you did. And so, moms feel guilty about not spending enough time with their kids, not doing enough, educational things, not saying the right thing. We feel guilty about losing our tempers in front of our children and just being real, because let's face it, no matter how much mindfulness you do, you'll still get tripped up, right? The situations in our lives and in our mothering, our kids will get older and they'll get more challenging, and we'll have to keep practicing our mindfulness. And so moms feel guilt, anxiety, just a sense of overwhelm, Ted, that there's so much to do. Like, there's so much to do. I've got these kids, and I've got their schedules, and I've got my schedule, and there's groceries to be done. And if you're a working mom, especially, so you're working, and then when you get home, you've got dinner to make, baths to do. Then as the kids go down, you got bills to pay, the dog to take out. I'm getting overwhelmed right now just saying all that stuff. I felt this, like, in my body, I could feel like this anxiety rising. So it's funny, like, just isn't it funny how what you focus your mind on, the bodily sensations? But I was getting anxious right then. But no, this sense of overwhelm, like, I can't do this all. And Ted, I won't lie. There were moments when the twins were babies and I was trying to nurse two girls at the same time, because if you didn't nurse them at the same time, one would cry and the other wouldn't nurse because the other one was crying, because they're so intimately connected. And I'm just like, I would look up to the sky and be like, you have got the wrong girl. Like, this is not, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot do this, And so just this sense of overwhelm of like, I got to meet their physical needs, their emotional needs, their psychological needs. It's just, so you've got the overwhelm of just the day to day, but then the overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I am raising a human being here. Me, I'm a mom. When did this happen? Perfectionism is also another big one that I know I struggle with, that Renelle and I struggle with, that, a lot of moms struggle with perfectionism. And I think it comes always from such a good place. We want the best for our kids. We so want the best for our kids. And so we try to perfect their childhoods, our responses to them, and what they wear and how they look, and how the house looks. And, some of us all struggle with, it's different degrees of perfectionism. Everybody has their thing that they get hung up on. But yes, perfection is a big one. And then I would just say also just lack of individual time. To be honest, one of the hardest things I found becoming a mom is it is a 24/7, hour job, or 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are no predetermined breaks. You can't go to the bathroom without an audience, and you don't get paid. And moms, with this type of a job, moms have to know what their energy levels are. They have to know what depletes their energy and what rejuvenates their energy. And not only do they have to know that, they have to know when they need to recharge. And sometimes that's really hard for moms to do, because what that means, Ted, is that I have to take a break. Mommy's got to go to yoga. I know you all still need X, Y, and Z done, but I can't do it right now. And that's incredibly hard for moms to do, because you feel like you're letting people down. But the basic thing is that the needs are never ending. So, like, you might as well take the break I've written about this. I'm like, I fell under this trap of thinking that if I just met everyone's needs first, like my needs would eventually be able to be met, but it never happens because somebody always needs something, right? And so that's when moms just really have to be assertive and say, this is what I need. And as women, I mean, there's so many levels to this, right? But as women and as moms, it's hard to be like, this is what I need, and then not feel guilty about it. So it's trying to find that time to allow ourselves to just, I guess, really essentially, since, kids thrive with attention, we as human beings, especially as women, as mothers, thrive with showing attention to ourselves. I mean, really, that's the only way. And at least I feel, that's how I feel. And I find that if I take an hour to go to yoga, oh my God, it fills me up. Or if I take 10 minutes to come upstairs and read, or just, I don't know, take a bath, whatever I need at that moment. I have to make that individual time as a mom, because if I don't do it, no one will. I mean, I wrote about this before. It's not as if like my husband comes home from work and he's like, "Oh, honey, you look like you need your time. I've noticed that you've been feeling this way and I know this is what you need. So here, please do this." I mean, do this for yourself. Very rarely is that the case. As mothers, we just have to say, this is what I need. This is just, I know myself and I know that this is what I need to better be a better mom, and wife and spouse or whatever. But yeah, so worry, guilt, fear, perfectionism, overwhelm, anxiety. That's just off the top.
It's just just the top 40 of
That's just the tip. Yeah, there's more to that. There's more.
So Jen, what would you like to see happen most out of this as Mindful Moms Network grows and impacts people's lives? What do you want to see come out of this?
That's a great question. I have so many visions about it that they just keep growing. And so the first is to just reach a broad audience of moms, simply because I've noticed, and Renelle has noticed, and people who write us have noticed a shift that happens. Like, this stuff works. I mean, it works. It's not a matter of, we're trying to sell something, we're not sure if this works, but we're like, it works. You will feel a shift within yourself. And so as an educator, I went into education to inspire people to be the best they can be. It might sound cheesy, I'm sorry. After that came out, I'm like, okay, that sounded like a commercial. Okay. No, but truly, my whole, as an educator, any age, be it kindergartners, 8th graders, college students, because I've taught at the college level, I want people to find themselves and feel empowered and inspired to just, to do what feels good and be themselves. And so, I feel that way with moms. I just, as mothers, there's such a camaraderie. There's such a sistership of like, you can see a mom at Target frazzled telling her kid, like, sit down. And you don't judge that mom because you've been in her shoes, and you just see that mom and you're like, oh, I know what you're going through. And so I just, I see how much these strategies have impacted and made me feel more centered and calm and a better mom, and just made me more happy, that I want to share it with everybody. I want to share it with moms because I want them to be happy. I want their children to be happy. I want them to feel good. And so my vision is to kind of, the grand vision is to have these live seminars. I mean, Ted, I'm a teacher, I'm a speaker. I like writing online, but I want to get this out in terms of working with real moms, maybe a weekend retreat where we've got just moms coming in and it's like a mom's weekend away, and we have presentations and talks and little breakout sessions. And so my vision for Mindful Moms is, I see myself talking to large groups of moms, small groups to moms. I'm almost done with my yoga teacher training. So I'll be a certified yoga teacher in 2 weeks, and I want to incorporate yoga and meditation with mothering and just really introduce moms and talk to moms about this mind, body, spiritual connection that can occur between mindfulness and yoga. And so I see running like special yoga sessions at different places, and having the website grow, definitely having it be, Renelle and I have talked about the fact that we use the term network very broad because we'd love to have an online community, a place for moms to go if you've got kids of a particular age group, like maybe on our website, a forum. So moms from, who have children from birth to age 2 forum, like, okay, what are you struggling with right now? Like, what's really hard about this stage? And allowing them space to talk with other moms. I mean, we definitely see a component of how do we get moms talking? And we haven't mastered that yet. And it's not a part of our website. You won't see it because Renelle and I are still right now like, okay, how do we get moms together? Because, moms thrive in communities. That's what a lot of mothers want, is that connection with other moms. And so we're brainstorming, how do we get moms together, be it via online and forums and maybe even some book clubs. And the vision has always been to have moms, working mothers, but mothers sharing their creativity with Mindful Moms Network. So, we're putting this call out there. We would love to have more images. So maybe there's a mom who's also a photographer. Well, we would love to have her take pictures for Mindful Moms Network, and we would showcase and highlight her work and have a special place on our page that says, look at the great things that this mom does, or just finding a way for moms to share their creativity and their passions on our website. Maybe have other writers. My sister-in-law, Caroline, she's a stay-at-home mom and has 2 children. Her oldest now is 1, so she has finally caught her breath just a bit. And I've asked her to start writing blog posts for Mindful Moms Network. She's a brilliant writer, and she's so creative, and she's got such creative visions for Mindful Moms Network. And it's so great. It's just so great to get other moms' voices. I never saw myself, and Renelle and I never saw ourselves as just like the only people doing Mindful Moms Network. We're just starting it, and we're just looking for ways, like, how do we bring moms in? How do we have moms informing what we do? How do we have moms co-creating mindfulmomsnetwork.com? So that's kind of, the vision's hazy, but yet it's not. And again, remember, I told Renelle, I'm like, can you imagine where Mindful Moms would be if, like, let's say our kids all went to school and we were home during the day and we could actually concentrate for an hour at a time? Because again, like, I'll sit down and write something in a half hour and tinker with it 15 minutes while the girls are having a snack. It's just, but that's how our lives are right now, and I think I know it's because of the craziness of our lives that is why we have all the good content. I mean, truly. So
yeah, it comes out of the chaos. Yep.
It does. Like it really does. So I see Mindful Moms as being this out in the community thing, creating mom groups around yoga and meditation. But I also see us having a strong online presence because moms are busy. I really want it to be a place to go if moms are like, I'm just so frustrated with my day. I don't know what to do. Go to mindfulmomsnetwork.com. Oh, here's a technique on letting go. Oh, here's a quick tip about just taking a breath, breathing. We talk in yoga, like, breath is everything. And how you breathe through really intense yoga postures is how you you keep your focus. It's how you get through an intense yoga posture, is you breathe. I've taken that concept into my mothering. When the girls are melting down, or I walk into the kitchen that I cleaned 10 minutes ago and it is a disaster, I just breathe and I make an audible breath, and I bring it back to the breath, just like I do in yoga. And it's like, it's like that moment, that mothering moment is like a really intense yoga posture that's burning, and I got to breathe through it. And it works. It works. It's crazy how it works. And so I want that to be for moms too. Just this quick, come every day for a new mantra, a new, and also to be there for if they know, like, I can't get to this week, but I know there's some really great stuff there. When I get a chance, I'll come back to it. So we want to have this online presence, but we want to get out with real moms and get moms together and get them talking and get them laughing and get them having fun, because our children are amazing and wonderful and lovely, but the work of motherhood itself is incredibly a lot,
It's a challenge. Yeah.
It's a challenge. Yeah. So,
well, eager to see the growing of the site over time. And for folks who are listening to the podcast, again, I'll have a link to the site on the episode page for this episode. But if you're listening, it is mindfulmomsnetwork.com. And our guest today has been founder Jen Niedzielski. Jen, thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome, Ted. I'm so thrilled that I ran into you at the mindfulness-based stress reduction, program. And I'm telling you, there's no coincidence, right? I mean, it was meant to be. So thank you so much for suggesting we do this. I had a great time.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the SBA website at secularbuddhism.org, and you'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. Discussion about this episode can be found on the episode page itself, along with show notes. The music for The Secular Buddhist is used by permission from John Kaizan Neptune's CD, Steps in Time. Additional music is provided courtesy of Monty Levinson of Taihei Shakuhachi and Rodrigo Rodriguez. Their websites are also linked on the SBA site on the About Podcast Music page. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on The Secular Buddhist.